sterling effort in getting all the technology set up. We've got a new microphone set up. I'm using the old one, but there'll be another one that will be available, particularly for our guest speaker, because the last thing we want to have is everyone coming here and then going away saying they couldn't hear what happened. So I think we've overcome that problem, thanks to Bruce for his efforts in doing so. Well, yeah.
Wait until after today. In that case, I'll accept any compliments at that stage.
We start a new era after our AGM. That is the first application for membership of the Heidelberg Progress Club by a lady. Oh. Namely, my wife. And I can say that we have a number of ladies here as guests from, I think they've been with Rosanna. They're very welcome. Robert has already been on the call and given them application forms. So if they'd like to join us, then we'd be delighted to have them. Now we also have another guest who, McIntyre, Ken, is it Ken McIntyre? Mick McIntyre. Mick, great to see you here as a guest, and hopefully you may be interested in joining us as well. Do we have any special events such as birthdays?
He's not here, but Reg Jackson, I believe, is 97 today.
Wow. Yeah. Well, yeah. It would have been nice for Reg to be here, but we acknowledge his 97th birthday. Would our Vice President like to call the roll?
I certainly would. Okay, pole position, Rob Adams. Dr. Peter Bedford.
Apology for Peter.
Thank you. Noel Benton. Bert Berryman. You here, Bertie?
No.
No. Must be an apology. Bruce Bazant.
Present.
Ted Breer.
Present.
Phil Carter. Michael Doherty.
Yes.
John Doherty.
No.
No. Len Edwards.
Apology for me.
Robert Tobacco.
Sir.
Ellen Evans.
Present.
Brian Fitt. Mick Francis is an apology. Noel Griffith.
Apology.
Thank you. Frank Henning.
Apology.
Bob Hill.
Apology for Bob.
Detlev Hingst.
Present.
Reg Jackson, apology, 97 today. David Jones is here. Dr. Joe Landsberg.
Yes. Yep.
Peter McCartney.
Present.
Brian McMahon.
Apology.
John Metcalf.
I'd say it's an apology for him too, please.
Thank you. Gary the Papworth.
Yeah, I'm here.
Dr. Graham Ratton.
I'm here.
Dr. Laurie Rose.
Present.
Kevin Ryan.
Yes.
Will Semler.
Absolutely.
We're getting into the cream now. David Taylor. Les Thurling.
Present.
Keith Tupper.
Present.
Livio Turacek.
Here.
Andy Walsh, apology. That completes the roll, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Reports. Our wonderful Armina Graham Ratton. Graham, anything to report?
What's she doing, sir?
Good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, I've got not much to say today. We have had a bit of a beating over the last month with lots of people being unwell or having surgery, but the only person that I'm aware of that's in trouble is Peter Bedford. Peter is having ongoing treatment for a thyroid problem, and he is feeling very unwell today. He rang me and said that he was not well enough to come, but he's going to feel a lot worse next week when he goes in to have some irradiation for it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Kevin, anything, basically you'd be saying get the subscriptions in?
Yeah. I'll be brief. At the moment, we've got $2,204 in the bank. So far, 13 members have paid the subscription, so there's still a lot to come. So please remember that subscriptions are due $60. $60. And it can be paid direct to the bank account. If anybody wants the details, they can see me, but I'll be here after 12, or paid by cheque or cash.
Thanks, Kev. In relation to excursions, can I just follow up on what Bruce put in the newsletter with respect to 3 events, which are a while off, but we wanted to get them out early. The first is the Metro Tunnel headquarters visit, 24th of June, I think it is. The sheet is at the back if you're interested in going, and we have 12 spots. The second is a morning melody at the Hamer Hall, which is involving the RAAF Swing and Jazz Band, and that's on the 20th, I think it is, of October. There's a sheet for that at the back. And the final one is another morning melody at Hamer Hall, Christmas Melodies, and that's on the 8th of December. And there's a sheet for that at the back, plenty of time to think about it. We'll bring it along each month, and that's at 11 a.m. So there are 3 activities that we've got in the pipeline, and the Committee of Management are working on some more, so we'll keep you posted. Now we're going to hear from Matthew Lunn in a minute. Matthew is speaking on behalf, the other one is Ripon Lee. That there's a proposed excursion to Ripon Lee, which was also featured in the newsletter. Could we have just a spot show of hands as to who might be interested in going to Ripon Lee? Yeah, we've got at least about 6, 7 or 8. Good. Okay. So John will follow up with that. Well, just before we hear from Matthew, and can I say our guest speaker is here, Dr. Nouria, who is just a magnificent person. It's wonderful to see her here, and I'll say a few words before she presents. She's relaxing in the back stalls at the moment. I'll just ask our Vice President, John, to just briefly fill you in on the visit that he and I had to Blue Cross.
Put the microphone on.
Thanks, Dave. Sorry, Will.
Just hold.
Is that okay if I just hold it, Will?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Can you hear it?
Just hold.
Yeah, thanks, David. A week or 2 ago, David and I journeyed down to Blue Cross. So for those who are not familiar with it, Blue Cross is just north of the Ivanhoe Aquatic Centre in Waterdale Road. And we went there with a view to see whether prospectively it might be a place where we could meet, have our monthly meetings, as opposed to here to check it out. So the facility is a very clean facility, it's quite expansive. The people there were very welcoming. They do have a cafe there, you can arrive early. You can have a cake and a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, plenty of seating. Insofar as where we would actually meet, the room is probably not as wide as here. May not quite have the depth, but they can certainly accommodate us, and we can configure the room in any way we want to. There is a lectern similar to this, and there's looks like there's plenty of places, Bruce, where we can plug our electronic gear in. Having said that, of course, if we decided to take it further, most certainly we'd need yourself and perhaps Alan to do a trip down there and just see whether, from an audio perspective, whether it's going to work for us. Having said that, the facility where we would meet is on ground level, so thankfully for some people there are no stairs. There are no fees. They'll accommodate us for free, which is a kick in the goal square. And they can assist with morning tea, mid-morning. They're happy to do that. They'll provide a facility there before our guest speaker. It would also lend us the opportunity where here we're restricted to entering the building at 10. If we wanted to, if members wanted to start earlier, we could start at 9:30. I don't think that would be a problem. Insofar as lunch is concerned, the people there at a cost can provide some finger food, might be some sort of small bites and some sandwiches and such. Tea and coffee, as I say, cold drinks, no alcohol. So if you want to trade the stairs for no alcohol, well, that's a matter for consideration, I suppose. But all in all, it looks like a favourable place where we could meet if we decide to go down that track. So really they're the pros. The cons, the audio doesn't meet our requirements. I don't know, I'm not an audio person, but as I said, Bruce and Co, whoever want to go down and check it out could do that. The one item that could be an issue, or is an issue, is parking. We don't have the same facility there as we have here. Having said that, those who can be dropped off out the front can be dropped out the front. There's a 5-minute parking restriction there, and that would work well for some of our members. Around the streets in Beatty Street, which is, if you like, on the southern end of the shop, so it's about 100-200 metres from Blue Cross, there's 4-hour parking, and that'd satisfy us. Otherwise, and there's also 4-hour parking, I forget the name of the street, but it's behind the facility, behind Blue Cross. It's a small street, but I guess if we got there early, we can get a few spots. Otherwise, there's 2-hour parking, and we're told by the locals that the parking inspectors there are pretty efficient, so you don't want to get a ticket. There is a petrol station opposite, and David spoke to the gentleman in charge of it, if you like, and we may be able to get half a dozen cars in there at a fee. I don't think it'd be a great fee. We didn't discuss that, but he was subject to the cars that he's got to work on. He said there's spots available, he'd help us out. So he was a nice guy. So, as I say, otherwise it's 2-hour parking, and if you've got a 2-hour spot and you're there at 9:30 and we're still there at 11:30, you'd be encouraged to go and move your car. I think that's about it, David, unless there's anything else you can think of.
No, I think that sums it up. They're very welcoming, and of course, to their point of view,
You must have pressed the wrong button. I couldn't understand a word.
Can you hear me now, Will?
No, you can't press the button. It's on the side.
You do it.
Give it.
Yeah, once the lights flashing.
You right now?
Give it a boost, he'll know what to do.
How's that? All right? You hear it?
Hear that?
No.
Say something.
You hear something? Okay. From their point of view, one of the things they're interested in is that the people residing there may want to come along and be a guest at one of our meetings or even join, which obviously from our point of view would be a plus. So I think it's an option that's worth exploring. The facilities are very good. So what we'll do is we haven't discussed it at the committee yet, we will next Monday, and we'll give it a thorough thought, and then we'll come back to you at the next meeting with a more definite proposal. I think the parking can be solved, but it's a matter we have to obviously bear in mind. Okay, I'd like to move on, and I'd like to introduce Matt Lunn. Matt's going to, in effect, fill in our normal members' corner spot. And David Lunn, of course, was an absolute icon as far as this Probus Club's concerned. He filled numerous positions, but most recently was almoner for a very long time. Was a very compassionate and warm almoner who looked after our members. And sadly, he left us, but he's still here with us in spirit. So Matt would like to say a few words about his father, and in particular his father's involvement with this club. Would you like to make Matt welcome? Just speak into the thing.
Thank you. Who's the engineer who came up with the sound system? Very good. Huh? Thank you, David, and the committee for the opportunity to come and just say a bit of a thank you to the Heidelberg Probus Club on behalf of my father, David, who sadly passed away on the 10th of February. I'll just put a couple of photos there on the desk, so you might want to have a look through a few of those. There's actually some old photos of Dad when he was a boy. So just a couple of brief kind of historical things about my father. He was born David Edward Lunn on the 4th of April 1935. His father, Norman, was a bank manager in Spencer Street, and actually Dad began his life living at the back of the bank in Spencer Street. I think it was what became the National Australia Bank, which back in those days I think it was the National Bank of Australasia it was called. So that's pretty unusual to begin your life living out the back of a bank in West Melbourne. So that was when Dad came into the world. Dad's father, Norman, who he may not have spoken too much about his father, but he was very much like Dad. Dad got his good humour and his sort of laid-back nature, I think, from his father, Norman. He was a beautiful guy, and my memories of my grandfather are going around to his place he lived in Fitzgerald Street in Balwyn, doing gardening for him, and he was always the type of grandfather who always, give you $20 for doing a bit of gardening for him, and he was a really beautiful guy, like my father. His mother, Eileen, was a secondary school teacher. She was a lovely lady as well, probably a bit more strict on Dad than his father was. I think when he wanted anything, he always used to say, go to Dad and ask for it, not Mum. She was a secondary school teacher. And Dad had a younger brother, Peter, who was actually born 9 years after Dad to the day. So Dad was born on the 4th of the 4th, 35, and Peter was born exactly the same day 9 years later. So there's a bit of consistency there with the parents that Dad used to joke about. Dad really idolised his younger brother. He didn't expect that he would have a younger sibling. I think Peter sort of wasn't expected, and arrived on the scene, and Dad absolutely idolised him as a little baby. He was a very cute little baby, and Dad and his brother Peter, who he may not have spoken about too much, always remained very close. And when I was a child, we used to spend a lot of time with Pete and Claire, his wife, and their kids. They were in Malvern, we were in Ivanhoe, but we used to spend a lot of time with them. And actually, those who came to Dad's funeral will have seen his wife Claire, who spoke on his behalf at Dad's funeral, because Peter's actually sadly got Parkinson's disease, so he's not in great health. Dad's upbringing certainly wasn't, they weren't rich, but they were, comfortable. Dad said one of the unusual things about growing up in his family is that Norm and his father always had a car, which wasn't, most families in that particular time didn't have a car, but Norman always wanted to have a car and took him and Pete and Eileen away on holidays, particularly down to the Mornington Peninsula. So that's where Dad really begun his love with the Mornington Peninsula, where my parents eventually bought a house in Blairgowrie, which we loved growing up. When Dad was about 60, he moved to Westminster Street in Balwyn, and initially attended the St Patrick's School in Hawthorn, but he actually went to a few primary schools. That's one of the unusual things about Dad. Dad would quite often bring these little trinkets from his childhood up. I went to a couple of different primary schools, and he went to one actually for a school term during the World War II. He went to a school in Nil because his mother, Eileen, who was actually a little bit eccentric in her own way, thought that it was too dangerous for Dad to live in the city. I think she envisaged that the Imperial Army of Japan would sort of land in Darwin and then make a beeline for North Balwyn. So she sent Dad off to live in Nil for, I think, a term with one of his aunts. The other unusual thing that some of you will be shocked at is that, and this will go no further than this room, this is quite scandalous, but Dad actually began his life as a Hawthorn supporter, believe it or not. He was the most ardent Tiger, but he began his life as a Hawthorn supporter and only switched to the Mighty Tigers when his father, who was a bank manager, as I said, I think one of the clients of the bank used to get free tickets to Punt Road. So Norm used to take Dad to Punt Road, I think in the 50s, and that's where he began his love of the Mighty Tigers. School-wise, Dad went to Burke Hall, I think in year 5 or year 6, and eventually went to Xavier. He got a scholarship to go to Burke Hall, which I think meant that half of the school fees were paid for through the scholarship. I don't know who the scholarship was through. Dad valued education really highly and was proud to send myself and my brother, we went to Xavier, and my sister went to Mandeville. So Dad really valued education quite highly. He excelled at school. He worked hard at school, but he was also quite smart. He had not quite a photographic memory, but he retained things. I think people who sort of got to know him sort of learnt that about him. He retained things. He especially loved the classics at school, Greek and Latin, and he would often quote Latin sayings right up until his last years when he was in poor health. If I ever told him off at home for doing something, he'd always go, mea corpa, mea magna corpa, which means my heavy heart. And he used to sort of, quote Latin things. He was a life learner, and he must have loved school, as I always joke with him, because he actually did his matric twice. So he was too young to go to university when he finished year 12, and as what happened back in those days, he had to repeat year 12. Imagine that, terrible, wouldn't it? Doing year 12 twice. Imagine saying that to the kids these days. Dad loved sport at school, played footy and cricket, and was actually a pretty handy leg spin bowler, he used to tell us, and was knocking on the door of playing for the Xavier Firsts when he developed bad ingrained toenails, and he sadly had to give up sport. He was actually a reasonable footballer as well, but probably better at cricket, but he had to give up playing competitive sport at about 16 because of these wretched bad toenails. And bad toenails and feet generally plagued him for most of his life. And as kids, we used to rib him about it quite a bit because his toenails looked, he had dead toenails, so they looked wooden. So as kids at the beach, we used to point at his toes and give him a hard time about them, which was probably a bit cruel. He was a good golfer, a natural sportsman. His academic intellect and kind demeanour, I've written here, made his career choice as a general practitioner kind of perfect. It's hard to have envisaged Dad doing anything else but going into medicine. He once told me he wanted to be a doctor after his own mother, Eileen, took him to see their family doctor when he was about 8 years old, and he was kind of taken in by all the fun equipment he said they got to play with, and he thought, this is what I want to do for a career, and he worked hard to make that happen. He loved medicine, but he had to work really hard at Melbourne Uni. It didn't come easy. He also had a scholarship for free tutorials at Newman College when he was at Melbourne Uni, and he said that was one of the things that really sort of got him through his course. When he was studying medicine is when he developed his real love of classical music. Anyone who knows Dad would know he had almost a near encyclopedic, I'd say, knowledge of classical music, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. And I think when he was a student, he sort of said to us, he used to listen to Mahler and stuff before a big exam, and he used to think, well, if Mahler can create these works of genius, I can pass this anatomy exam tomorrow. Come on, you can do it. So some things about Dad's medical career which you may not know. He was quite humble and didn't sort of talk too much about his career, but he started his life as a GP in Yarraville, and then he moved to Preston in about 1965 into a practice there on the corner of Murray Street and Plenty Road, Murray Road and Plenty Road, which is now a defunct building, sadly, and he worked there for about 20 years. He worked really hard, often 6 days a week, and my memory is he was often called out in the middle of the night to deliver babies, as GPs did back then. I also remember he had stacks and stacks of medical journals which were delivered to our house in Bayview Parade, and I remember my brother and sister and me used to dare each other to look through these medical journals, because often they had pretty gruesome pictures of facial deformities and worse type of things, so we used to dare each other to look through those. He was one of the first non-Asian doctors actually in Victoria, as far as I know, to become a specialist in acupuncture, which was an unusual thing about Dad, because he was very much an old school GP. If you're sick, take a pill for something. But he and a few other GPs in Melbourne were earmarked to become acupuncturists, and so he learned how to do acupuncture quite successfully in his practice. In addition to this, he oversaw the intern program at the now non-existent PANCH, the old Preston and Northcote Community Hospital, if you remember that. And he became a great mentor and role model to quite a lot of young doctors in general practice. He built up a loyal following, oftentimes, especially in the days in Preston, which was a fairly working class suburb back in the sort of 60s and 70s. He provided medical care to families for free, which he knew wouldn't be able to pay the bill, and that was not what he told me, it was what other doctors told me that he used to do. In the early 90s, the big move for Dad was that he moved to the North Eltham Medical Clinic. Dad was a pretty conservative guy by nature, so this was a big move for Dad to sort of move to a different practice, and he did it mainly for financial reasons, but he thought that his career would be better suited by being in a bigger practice, and that was certainly the case. It was a great move for Dad. He always told us on the first day he was at North Eltham Medical Clinic, he sat there in his room and he didn't have one patient. So he sat there and heard all the goings on, the other doctors' patients going into the other rooms, and he did not have one patient. And then the second day, one of his old patients from Preston came to see him, drove all the way to North Eltham, and he thought, I'm away here. And then word spread that Dr. Lunn was over at North Eltham, and then he was away. The first year he actually was the only doctor on at Easter, and then eventually built up a good practice in North Eltham and loved it. It was the best decision he ever made. He said larger practice, better facilities with allied health, and the staff really, really warmed to him as well. And so much so that a couple of the reception staff actually came to Dad's funeral and hadn't sort of seen him for about 20 years, so they had deep respect for him. He retired briefly, and then he was coaxed out of retirement by a doctor called George Gesheet in Reservoir. Some of you who are in the medical field would know him. So he worked 3 days a week for a couple of years, and then he retired for good in 2010, mainly due to really bad arthritis that he had in his hands. So it was one of the first of Dad's many ailments, was arthritis in his hands, which sort of caused him to retire. While working as a registrar at Royal Melbourne Hospital, he met our mother, Michelle Bassett, who was a nurse at the Alfred Hospital. They actually met at Cowes in a boarding house one summer holiday. Dad was working as a lowly dishwasher, and I think Mum was down there with friends of hers, and we always envisaged that, you know, Mum and Dad met over the operating table like something out of, you know, the Young Doctors, and this beautiful romantic moment, but it was a bit more earthy than that. They met when Dad was working as a dishwasher. They married in 1962, and about 9 months later my older brother Tim was born. followed by my sister Sarah in 1964, and then me in 1967. Sadly, actually, the two groomsmen that Dad had at his wedding died very young, so it was quite sad. There was one guy who had a congenital heart condition, a guy called Michael Hickey, who was a university friend of Dad, sadly passed away young, and the other groomsman had very bad depression, actually, and sadly passed away too. Mum and Dad rented a house in Castle Street, and then I was talking to Robert Urbacher before about Castle Street, and then in 1964 they moved to 65 the Eyrie. They bought a house at 65 the Eyrie in Eaglemont, and then about 10 years later, with the 3 kids obviously outgrowing the house in Eaglemont, they moved to 17 Beauview Parade, where Dad basically lived up until his final days. So Mum, some of you may have met Dad's wife Michelle, my mother, who passed away sadly in 2011. She was quite different to Dad. She was blonde. She was a beautiful woman, as you can see from the photos if you're passing around. She was pretty larger than life, my mum. Dad was quite mild-mannered, and Mum was a bit more vivacious and out there, you might say. She was the one who at a house growing up, particularly in Beauview Parade, you know, I remember as a kid there were often big parties, quite a bit of boozing, you might say, with the East Ivanhoe crew, who remained friends of Dad's right up until the end. Lots of fun growing up with Mum and Dad, going to the races. As I said, the holiday house at Leagarry was always full of love and laughter, and Dad was big into sailing and fishing as well, so a great dad. Was really funny, as some of you guys, he was probably in not great health, and some of you guys got to know him well, but he was a really funny guy, had a dry sense of humour, I think. Loved British comedy, especially the Goons. I remember as a kid that, you know, those, you know, the voices, you know, Eccles and all those crazy voices from the Goons echoing through the house on a Saturday morning, and he especially loved Peter Sellers. He was a great grandfather to all his grandkids, you know, did everything he possibly could for his family, was always involved in us kids and the grandkids as well. Great father, very much a creature of habit. Dad worked out his living habits in about 1952, and they didn't change up until about 2025. He had the same thing for breakfast every morning. I lived with him for the last sort of 10 years of his life, so I used to watch him and think he does exactly the same thing every morning. Just right for breakfast, marmalade on toast and a cup of tea every morning, didn't change. Was a very likeable guy, and as a lot of you guys probably know, his greatest gift was he was inherently interested in other people, always asking about other people, and there was often a lot of the guys here, I know things about you from what Dad told me, so I won't publish any of them, I promise, but Dad was inherently interested in other people, and this Probus group really meant a lot to Dad and the friendships that he made here. So as his siblings, we're very, very eternally grateful to you guys for what you gave for Dad, especially in his final years. That's it.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Matt. Terrific. That was a great tribute to a great man. Kev, you might like to get yourself set up for the sing-along. Then our guest speaker who is here, we'll just have a few minutes to get the electronic set up for Dr. Nouria, and she is going to sit down, and there is a visual presentation to go with her presentation. So once we've done the sing-along, we'll get things sorted out for Dr. Nouria, and she'll come up and we'll get underway with her presentation.
We adjusted a little bit more.
I'm not going to have time for myself. Oh. Okay.
Thank you.
probably want to give it to the guest. We'll give it to the guest.
Yes, you don't need it.
You don't need it for this. Wait for the guest. Should give it to the guest during this.
Okay, looks like we're just about ready. What month is this, by the way? April. Oh yes, that's right. Now that's probably a good introduction to the first song that we've got today. It's number 16. It's April Love, but we're not going to sing the first 5 lines of it. We're going to start with the bit that most of us will remember. Okay, Irv, let's start. April Love. April love is warm, very young. Every star's a wishing star that shines for you. April love is all the 7 wonders. One little kiss can tell you this is true. Sometimes an April day will suddenly bring showers, rain to grow the flowers for the first bouquet. But April love can slip right through your fingers, so if she's the one, don't let her run away. Right, the next one is number 20, Look for the Silver Lining. A bit easier. Number 20, Look for the Silver Lining.
Having trouble with the light on the
Well, we'll just get going. The lining, when every cloud appears in the sky, remember somewhere the sun is shining, and so the right thing to do is make it shine for you. A heart full of joy and gladness will always banish sadness and strife. So always look for the silver lining and try to find the sunny side of life. Final one, number 22, Georgie Girl. Hey there, Georgie girl, swinging down the street so fancy-free. Nobody you meet could ever see the loneliness there inside you. Hey there, Georgie girl, why do all the boys just pass you by? Could it be you just don't try, or is it the clothes you wear? You're always window shopping, but never stopping to buy. So shed those dowdy feathers and fly a little bit away. There's Georgie girl, there's another Georgie deep inside. Bring out all the love you hide, and oh, what a change there'd be. The world will see a new Georgie girl.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, guys, we'll just a couple of minutes to get things set up for Nouria, and we'll get underway.
Can you hear that now? All right.
That first one, can you tell me in 10 words what the first thing was said?
What the first speaker said,
Yes.
what Matthew said.
No, the one previous one.
That was John.
Yeah.
And John, it's about going to taking the club from here down to Blue Cross in Waterdale Road. But it'll all be organised beforehand.
If I move this over here, I might be able to get the slide.
Yeah, the parking. But you can't have a meal down there. You can only have sandwiches or something.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
Sits down, I'll just make sure it's in the right position.
Around the corner.
Now,
I've turned it up. Don't press the buttons on this side.
Okay.
one of our guys is pretty deaf, so this helps him here.
Oh, I can't reach it.
What do you want?
He's loaded it. Bring it over here. I'll have to set up this old computer.
Does she have to have a...
This one needs to just adjust it slightly. I might need to get that little table that was up there beside her and put the laptop on it for her.
What about the projector?
Yeah, we'll do that too.
What is the projector?
It'll be in that bag. We'll have
Let's
to
say it, Bruce.
A high one?
Yeah.
High one.
Have to be one of those high ones. Yeah. Can I repark you?
Yeah, bring it over this side. Bring it around here. Get it so you finish. You're going to put it on this Just there.
It's just here.
About where David is.
Oh, right, where I am, mate.
Yeah.
And Bruce, if Nouria gives you the call, you can then bring up the next one on the computer.
I can do that, or she can do it herself. Whichever.
Would you prefer to ask Bruce to bring up the next slide, or would you do it?
You can do it that way.
It's there on the table.
If you just sort of say next slide, I can do it for you.
Alan, it's the blue cord.
The blue cord?
And she's got that.
Yeah, okay.
That's it. That's her thing.
Or find her time.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's the, that goes into the, reach? I've got a,
Depends how far you want to go with this.
there's a double.
There's another, that is extension, that is an extension.
No, that's just for the input on this.
Yeah.
I got it.
No, this is.
Oh, that's the, yeah.
This. It takes more time than anything else.
I can do that one. You do this one.
Where's the bit of cardboard?
Oh, yeah, we need to.
It'll be here somewhere too.
We'll need something bigger than that. We'll need to be at the back.
At the front to lift it up.
You'll need to be at the back.
We'll get there.
Yeah, she's got that on, yeah.
It takes a while to warm up.
So we need something about an inch or so thick.
It's coming up now.
You see all right in the ring?
Yes.
Yep.
That's the reservation.
That's good.
Focus on.
Now,
Focus on this.
That's it.
Focus is on just behind the light. Oh, you got it.
It's it's a bit. It's not very good.
You focus well. Without your glasses.
That's it?
yeah.
The lights out.
Put the lights out. Out? Lights out?
The lights out so we can see properly.
Well, at least some of them, anyway.
Yeah, just stop that.
Microphone.
Oh, we just need to put the mic on for.
Yeah.
Put
Just for a sec. Put them on it. Just for a
right
sec.
light back on.
Just so we get mic'd up.
So we've got the microphone on for
She's got wheels on. Yeah.
but what about the one for the video?
It's on there. This is the microphone for the video. So we can just put that on the scarf or something. Yeah, put it on the scarf.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. The next voice you hear will not be me.
Could you read that okay? Could you read that okay?
Audience.
Yeah, there's one in front of me. They just wanted to check this out.
Okay. Close to your clothes. Just put it onto. Obviously, it's getting feedback from the other one.
Just say something. Okay, can you hear?
I do.
Yeah. Guys, can you just doing a sound check?
Speak.
And then we just you can hold them.
Yeah, just get on next to the chair there. That should be okay. Just leave the light, Alan, just leave the lights for a second, will you? Okay, we're ready to proceed. Look, I don't think I've had more pleasure to introduce someone to this club than Dr. Nouria Salehi. There were some details contained in the newsletter about her, and she is the Executive Director of the Afghan Australia Development Organisation. She's an Afghan Australian nuclear physicist, biophysicist and humanitarian, and she's the founder of this organisation. In addition to her work with research in nuclear medicine, she has travelled to Afghanistan many times at the risk of her own life to establish teacher training programs, apprenticeships, literacy programs, and a large range of initiatives to drive change and empower young people, and particularly women, in their communities. Now, I think we all know a little bit about the history of Afghanistan, and particularly the more recent history. So you can imagine the challenge that is involved in undertaking that work, particularly since the Taliban resumed control of Afghanistan. She has many awards, including Victorian Senior Citizen of the Year, finalist in the Australian of the Year Award, a Rotary International Award, and is a member of the Order of Australia. Would you like to make her welcome?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really happy to see you, and thank you. I thank David for inviting me to be here today and speak about my country of birth, Afghanistan. Yes, Afghanistan today is full of resources, but nobody can use them. It is a country with a lot of challenges. It is a country between East and West, and the different ethnic groups. It's not one or two to control it. There are many, many different races. Like I can count 8 or 9, but actually there were 28 different ethnic groups living in Afghanistan. I started my project in 2001 in Afghanistan. I went from classroom to classroom to see how the students are learning and how the teachers are delivering. And I found that the maths and physics was a big problem. Nobody knew that 9 plus 4 is equal to 13. So I said I should do something for the country. But I couldn't do for everyone because I didn't get any grant from the government. And I had no money. For the little money that I had, I trained 6,400 teachers. And how did we work in Afghanistan? I started first with life skill for women in the villages. I remember the first day when I went and they said talk with the leader of our community. I went and I saw the leader of the community and I said I want to start courses for women. He said no, it's not possible. No, we don't want. The second day that I went and I heard the same thing. The third day I went with a little bit more knowledge. I said, look, for women who comes to my classes, I gave $1 per day. And suddenly I saw them changing, starting talking, and they said, oh, we can pay with $1 per day for our tea and sugar. So they accepted, and I started. I started for 25 women in the village, and from one village it went to the second and third and fourth. But the first village I paid $25 per day for the ladies. But for the rest I said, I don't have money. If you want to continue, I can. And we have teachers and trainers to teach you. They accepted. So I trained until now 2,300 women. And our course is current. Taliban didn't stop us. Why they didn't stop? Because we are apolitical. And we are not changing anything. We go and teach and train women and men in Afghanistan. So they didn't interfere with my work in Afghanistan, which is a good to a class for our team. And then I started the science teacher training. Science teacher training, I said if I train girls at this age, it's difficult because there's millions of girls that are going to school. I started training the teachers from one area to another, from one province to another. Unfortunately, I didn't have and I couldn't get any fund from the government. With the little money I was getting from the Australian, I was putting together and running a program. And so far we went to 7 different provinces, like Herat, Mazar Sharif, Konar, anyway, you don't know, but it is 7 provinces. With going to the 7 provinces plus Kabul, we reached to 6,000, and we trained 6,000. And what we did with the schools, we asked the principal of the school that the girls who are going to the teachers that they are coming to us, you should allow them 2 hours per week to teach another teachers, right? So one teacher came, learned something, and 2 hours per week they taught the other teachers, which was a big plus for the schools that they did that. And can I change that? Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. I put first. There's no picture in this because we are not allowed to show the girls on the picture. So what we've done during the Taliban time, we are doing the life sciences skill in the villages, and so far through the 3-4 years the Taliban are there, we trained 400 women in the villages. And also 400 master science teachers we trained. 100 was men and 300 women. And now you're asking me, why you train the 300 that the schools are closed and they don't want ladies to go to school. But they promised to us to give them jobs. And yes, when they finished, they went directly to the secondary school and they started teaching. For us was, we spent money on them, but the one thing was good, and it is good, that they found a job. They became breadwinner for their families. And the last thing that we did, we created a very special courses for young girls, 16, 17, 18, that they are going at year 10, 11, and 12. So we did in 3 different options. First option that they went directly and physically attended the classes. The second option was the online. And the third one, because for people that they were very poor and they couldn't afford to have a computer at home, we gave them a USB. So they learned through the USB. So it's still on and it's still current and we are going on. And a lot of organizations stayed without any help because the day Taliban arrived in Afghanistan, people there started ringing me and asking me, what are you doing with your classes? I said, until Taliban tell me that stop, you're not allowed, we are continuing. But fortunately, in 2016, I had 3 Talibs in our classes, in biology, physics, and chemistry. And these teachers, they said, they reported to the Taliban that we were very honest, and they learned a lot about their subjects. So we should allow them to go ahead. So they didn't approach me, they let me doing classes in the villages, life So, and also the second one was the master science teacher training. Why I stopped the master science teacher training? Because we couldn't afford anymore, and we didn't get enough money. Before that, these are our classes before Taliban arrives. So she's the trainer, and she was teaching the students, male and female all together. It was not that male should stay in one side and the female another. It was a mixture, and we had each time we had around 100 students. Yes, in the villages was not the same. There's only one girls' school in each village, so the rest of men, and they were coming with their bokra, which are the need to cover their face, and they were doing, and they were learning something from us. Yeah. You see, they were very cruel, the teachers, with each other. Okay? So, but today, it's not the same. When we wanted to take pictures from our students, they didn't allow us. They didn't know. Don't use your camera. So the girls are trying to learn something. So we should give them an opportunity to learn and to study. So we created our classes for them, even at home. But it is not for all Afghanistan. It is only for one part of Kabul that we know and we can look after them. The rest stays moved. They contacted me, but I don't have any opportunity and economical financial support to give them something.
You don't need to hold that. You can just put it down.
Sorry?
Yeah, just put it down.
Okay.
You don't need to hold it.
Right.
Yep.
So if we don't need, don't take it. Yeah, and I go ahead and I'm trying to create a new course for young boys that they want to become engineers, or especially in engineering, with a science academy. It takes time, of course, but I try to create it and tell them that yes, you can learn more on maths and physics, and then you can, you don't need to send them to India or to somewhere else to learn. They can study inside of Afghanistan. So, yeah, this is in the villages. In the village, usually they don't show their faces. So this that we give them some material, and they are showing the material they received from us. They're all sitting on the floor, no chairs and no tables. Me and the group of women that they are attending really with interest to learn something from us. Yeah, and this is our vocational training. What we do, I should cloth the black one, because the uniform in Afghanistan is in black. And we give them, and we teach them how to cut it and how to make it. So they make hundreds of clothing, uniforms for people, that disadvantaged people, that they cannot afford to buy. Okay. So we had, sorry, can't turn back. Yeah. Our project was, we had science teacher training, life skill, and also carpentry, but we are not doing it anymore. We trained 93 carpenters. Yeah, but it cost us a lot of money because we couldn't do, it was not a school, it was just an area to teach them. And also infrastructure and material, which is, these women are widows, we help them to set up something in their homes and cook bread for all the village. Instead of village, they individually they cook, they bake their bread, they are doing it and selling it to them. They bring their heart that they believe. So, next. Yeah. He says, she's got 6 children, and she's the breadwinner for the children. And emergency release, as I told you, we gave them for 1 month food and plus the uniforms. And then it was very small. She came and she said, "This is, I cannot wear this one, change it." So she said, "Oh." This is in a village that they don't have school. So we try to teach them at home or in the garden. Yeah. See how many are? And they don't have schools. What we do, we provide with a notebook, pen and paper. Some children, they come without shoes. They don't have money to buy a pair of shoes and come to the school. Yeah. This group, they are at year 5 or 6. Yeah. That's it. Girls are sitting in one area and boys in another. And you see the boy hasn't got a pair of shoes coming without, but they are not missing the school. Yeah, we bought some tables and chairs. Someone gave us money and took it to them. During the winter time, we distributed blankets for people. And I went to the United Nations, UNAMA, to say what's going on and what they're doing in Afghanistan, sitting and drinking tea or working for people. Yeah, these are the organizations and the philanthropic organization that helped me. The last image of Afghanistan. Yeah, finished.
Okay, thanks, Nouria. We might have some questions.
I'm sorry, 10 days ago, I had a mini stroke. I was in the hospital, but I'm not missing the meeting.
Well done.
That's why my voice is
now, any questions that anyone would like to ask Nouria? Nouria, just in relation to your organisation itself, how many are involved with your organisation?
Now,
yeah,
because every year it changed. In Afghanistan, I've got 5 staff
yep.
that they are working for us. And here we've got a committee of management of 6 people. So yeah, it's not a big organization, but we are doing more than big organization in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it? Do you have any trouble in going to Afghanistan? Is there any problems about?
No problem. No, I don't touch the politics. I don't allow my staff to talk about the politics, and I tell them, do your work. And if you have any politics, you go home and talk with your friends, right? Not in our.
Yep. Yep. So, but there's no problems in.
It's why I didn't get any problem
Yep.
in that Taliban. All they said, welcome, well done, and you can continue anytime. So I prefer that, except of talking about Taliban and what they are doing in Afghanistan. I know, I am aware, but I don't want to speak for the benefit of my people in Afghanistan. If I say something, it goes within the minute, and then they don't let me to get inside of the country, or they talk something against me, and I don't want. I want people, they learn something with a little money that I collect from my friends and people.
And is there any problems about being able to transfer money into Afghanistan for the purposes of your programs?
We had a bank account with Commonwealth Bank, which
yep.
is still there, and we have got some money in it. But when Taliban came, they stopped everything. And we didn't know how to send money to Afghanistan to support our project. So I found it. So I pay in Melbourne, and then there's a few money changes, and they sent it to Afghanistan. They gave I gave them money within 10 minutes. It's in Kabul. So they've got people they are serving in Afghanistan, and they call my staff and gave them money.
Yep. So you can then access the money in Afghanistan.
Oh yes, so
yep.
we have access money to the money changes.
Yep. Okay. And yes.
Do you have any trouble having access to teaching girls?
No.
They don't mind you.
We've got, and now that I'm talking with you, we've got 100 women in the villages that they learn, and also around 150 girls that they're coming physically in following our classes. If you keep the code, as they said, that girls should be this, girls shouldn't talk with a man, and should come to our classes, and then can go home, and yeah, they don't say anything. They let us do it.
Yeah, if you play by the rules, it's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Follow their rules.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Do you see people who have been injured during things that happened in Afghanistan?
Well, people are injured and people have been killed. That happens every day, right?
Yes.
And now we don't know what they are doing tomorrow. Like Pakistan, is a puppet regime for contact of America and British in this area of the world. So to them, all of the connection is through the Pakistan. And Pakistan is in contact with the Taliban group. There are two different Taliban groups in Afghanistan. One created by Pakistan and another created by Afghans. So what they do, Pakistan is in contact with both, but Trump is contact is only one group who is created by Pakistan. He doesn't like the Afghan one. So he's working with them. And Pakistan is with both, unfortunately. And they don't let that Afghan one, which is really associated with Pakistan, don't let the girls to go to school. Afghani group is better. But Afghani didn't. He was not in Afghanistan. He grew up in Pakistan, and we consider him as a Pakistani. He doesn't speak our language, so it makes it difficult.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, Nouria. Was it anyone else? No. Nouria, thanks very much for making the effort to come, particularly as you've had a bit of a medical issue recently. So we really appreciate it. I mean, if anyone's interested, you can go to their website, and it's got further details about their work, and it shows you if you're interested in making a donation to the foundation. You can do that through the website. I got to know Nouria of her because she gave a presentation to a group that I'm involved with called Melbourne Forum a few years ago about her work, and I was so impressed that I joined the ranks of one of her supporters, which I'll continue to do. But anyone's interested, by all means, have a look at their website, and you can get more details and how you can support them. I mean, it's just extraordinary work, bearing in mind the conditions they're working under. It's remarkable that it's being done, and we should be, in my view, supporting them as much as we can. Nouria's going to stay for lunch, which is great, so you have the opportunity to have a further chat to her if you like. So that's pretty well it. As I said, the committee will have a further look at the Blue Cross proposal. We'll have a bit more information as to how much the lunch is likely to cost. I would think it won't be any more than what we pay here. Personally, I think it's got a lot going for it, but we do need to be comfortable with the parking arrangements, and we can do some further work on that. It does give us more flexibility in terms of when we can start, and the committee has been talking about whether we could go back to the old idea of the start and the meeting, and then a break for tea and coffee before we move into the guest speaker. Now that's difficult here because we can't get access till 10 o'clock, and then we've got to set up, whereas we'll get earlier access at Blue Cross. So it's certainly worth exploring, but we won't make any decision without coming back to you and consulting further. So thanks everyone, and thank you very much for our guests. I hope you've enjoyed the meeting, and hope you may be interested in signing a membership form. We'll get the numbers up, and lunch should be here fairly soon. Thank you.